I've got at least 4 jokes in this presentation, so I've got you covered. So. Because I'm apparently the guy that they've chosen to get your Friday night started. So, you poor things. I will do my best. This is me. So I've been at Sage for almost 11 years now. It's the only proper job I've ever had, so I'm definitely drinking the Kool-Aid at this point. I started off in content as an editorial assistant. And now my current job title is Information Architect, which sits at the interface of content and technology, I think. So I'm very happy to be here. Moving into kind of more of the technical side has also been good for my health, as you can see if you look at my previous intranet photos at Sage. Just definitely the hairdressing budget has improved. Just general overall health, I think, so it's been good for me. But I think IA is kind of a rare breed in publishing, which is surprising to me, because who has more information to architect than academic publishers? I don't think there are many organizations that do. So who's doing that in other academic publishers? I wouldn't know, because I've never worked for one. But yeah, it's a challenge, because we have lots and lots of information, as I'm sure we all do. Too much information, and that's how the kids express that, apparently, which is, I'm sure is a challenge we all face. But just Sage's challenge in particular is our heap of content. So it's a varied heap of content. It's very heterogeneous. We have lots of different types of content. Just to give you a flavor, we're the world's 5th largest journals publisher. We publish data sets on social phenomena. We publish courseware because we're an educational as well as an academic publisher. We publish 900 books a year. Some of them end up on Sage Knowledge. More data through acquiring Data Planet. Some of those books end up on Sage Research Methods instead, so got to keep track of those. We purchased Adam Matthews, so we publish primary source archival material now. We compete with Harvard business cases as well. We publish literature reviews. This is going to keep going. We publish, we develop online courses for social scientists to teach them data analytic skills. Streaming video, a massive investment for us. We have Sage Business Researcher. We've got something called Sage Data Maps, which even I don't know what that is. So if I don't know kind of what content we publish, and I work for Sage, how can we expect our users to? So it's a challenge we've been facing for a while. One of the solutions we have used to address that is content recommendation. I won't dwell too much on this because we talked a lot about content recommendation at this conference, but it's a way that we try and knit that content together. So we have been developing recommendation engines for a while now. We're getting pretty good at it. The first one took quite a while to put together, but now we can spin them up quite quickly when product managers ask us to. Just to give you a closer look at one of them, this is the Sage Recommends content recommendation engine. So here the user is reading an article about Brexit on Sage Business Researcher. They might not know about that heap of content that we have, that Sage also publishes journal articles, videos, case studies, and data sets. So if they click the tab on the right-hand side there, we can show it to them. So they can see results from those other products. They can see journal articles, research reports, and lots of other content if they scroll down. So the best thing about this slide is I actually put it together 2 years ago, and normally you have to update your examples as things develop. But this slide's about Brexit, so I haven't had to do that. I think I'm probably going to get another 10 years out of this slide at least, which is really a massive time saver for me. It's brilliant. So really sorry if this is too technical, but here's a highly detailed schematic of how our recommendation engine works. We send a Sage document into the index. Some magic happens. Ask Sam about the magic. He can give you a breakdown. And then we generate a list of Sage content based off that. So that's actually semantic fingerprinting. And the good thing about going last is that I don't have to explain what semantic fingerprinting is, because lots of other people have done that. But we're basically talking about conceptual similarity between documents. And that magic hat's actually extremely versatile, because we've got 3 million pieces of content in there. Journal articles, videos, cases, data, podcasts even. And when you consider that we can generate recommendations based on any kind of type of content that can be distilled in text, then really you're only limited by your imagination in terms of what you're using to generate those recommendations. So in theory, we can generate recommendations from things like a course outline, from a faculty bio page, from a keyword, from a reading list, from a draft essay that a student has half finished, and generate a list of Sage content based on that, which you can use in a number of different ways. So you could paste in a course outline and use it as a reading list. You could recommend a custom publication to a course leader based on the information that's in their course outline. A student could use it to generate a sort of rough and ready bibliography. So lots of possibilities that those people can do. But when I say those people, I really mean me acting on their behalf, because I'm the only person at Sage with access to the recommendation API at this point. So although I'm quite excited about all these possibilities, really it feels kind of more like a solution in search of a problem. And as we learned yesterday, we can't just make an AI without knowing what problem it solves. Which is quite fortunate, because as I'm doing this thinking and thinking of these sort of different use cases, I actually start to become aware of a real business problem in the organization that I think our growing capability with content recommendation can help solve. So this is what we call a customer value report. These are documents that our marketing managers write for our customers. So we're talking academic libraries in the main, showing how their users are using our products, but also how specifically our content can be of use to their patrons. So this, in particular, is the page where the marketing manager picks a sample course from that institution and then looks at what Sage content could potentially be recommended on it. Our customers love this as well, because they're always thinking of ways to demonstrate the value of the stuff they purchase from us to their faculty members, to their budget holders. So this is actually useful information to them. It's not just kind of a sales pitch and marketing material from Sage. The only thing is that putting them together is quite time-consuming. So here's kind of a précis of what a marketing manager has to do. They have to find a course outline. They have to look through that course outline and pick out the topics it covers. And then go to each of our platforms in turn, type those keywords into the search bar, and find content that matches them. And that sounds like a real pain. I wouldn't want to do that. I pity the people who do. And that's really without even mentioning the general problems with searching by keyword. Which is that you need to know exactly what you're looking for. You need to know how to phrase it. You need to know what other ways there are of phrasing it, so you need to be aware of the synonyms. And you need to kind of consider that there are things you haven't thought of, so there'll be related terms you're not aware of. The things you don't know, those unknowns. Donald Rumsfeld really struggles with search for that reason, I think. He has lots of unknowns. Or there might just be things that you don't search for because you have massive search fatigue and you want to go put the kettle on now, because this is a really arduous process. So I'll give you an example. Well, I will give you an example of what I'm talking about. But I wanted to just talk about the phrase for a second. I'll give you an example, because that's something that we say when we're trying to explain something quite complex a lot of the time. Examples are really useful. When you can't quite find a way of conceptually expressing something, it's often useful to give an example. Sometimes that's the only way you can get your information need across. So the example of example giving I'll give you is this painting. So I'm at a hotel, say, and I see this painting. I like the look of it. I want to know what that painting is. Maybe I want a print, or I want just more information and background on that painting. So I have an information need to know what this painting is. Discovered yesterday that I could just ask you guys, because apparently you're all art historians who can name a painting if you just throw it up on the screen. I'm not even going to ask, because we're short of time. But I'm not. I don't have a great knowledge of art, so I've got an information need that I need to phrase. I need to think of a way to phrase it. So I'm going to try abstract sunrise painting and see what comes out of Google. And I mean, that's okay. It's not exactly what I'm looking for. Some of them aren't even that similar to the painting that I was trying to find. So it's quite a disappointing search result, and maybe that's my fault. Maybe I've picked the wrong word. Maybe abstract is the wrong word. Maybe that painting wasn't abstract, because I don't really know anything about art. Maybe if I had a better art vocabulary, then I'd get better results. So quality of my results very much dependent on my ability to phrase my information need in the same language as the people who create content, and sometimes that's difficult. Which is why it's great that I can just give the search engine an example. So this is what happens if I simply drag and drop the picture of the painting into Google. Presents me with visually similar images at the bottom, and they are the same painting, but they're visually similar in that they're slightly different angles and slightly different frames. But also it answers my information need directly by taking me to a page that identifies this as The Sun by Edvard Munch. So the search system's better able to understand my information need by just giving it an example of what I'm looking for, rather than relying on me to try and distill my information need into keywords. So where have we got to? We've got this growing capability around semantic content enrichment, which we've been building up over the last 5 years at Sage. We have a business problem, the form of those marketing managers wanting to do their job more easily and match Sage content to course outlines. And then we have changing kind of search expectations. Users are expecting to be able to give search systems an example of what they're looking for rather than trying to distill that into a search query. And handily, that brings us to Sage Matchmaker, which is our response to each of those drivers. So just a few things before I give you a kind of 3-minute demo of this. It's a prototype, so you're going to see bits of wonky metadata in there. That's totally my fault, nobody else's. So please forgive those. Allows the user to search using a sample document. So that can be any document. We've built a user story around that marketing manager, but really you can put anything in there. What it will then do is analyze that document for its most important concepts, and then go and search Sage content for those concepts, for similar types of material to what you've pasted in. So taking all of that legwork around identifying the concepts and searching all of those different bodies of content, and really saving you a lot of time. Under the hood, uses the expert system LookSid Similarity API, which we're actually in the process of migrating to Cogito, for you text mining fans out there. And we built the prototype in partnership with 67 Bricks, who are a stellar software services company you'll have heard about at this conference. So they not only developed the front end for us and the integration with the API, but also sat down with us right at the start of the process to help us work through these user stories and help us refine the feature set. Real person, not an actor. So quick demo. I'm going to imagine that I'm a marketing manager and I'm looking at that same course outline. Rather than try and distill this course into several separate search queries, I'm going to simply copy it. And then paste it into the Matchmaker interface. And there is the Matchmaker interface. I'm going to add a title because we do some additional weighting on that title. You'll see that I've got date filters if I care about the recency or the currency of the content. If I know the customer only has access to certain products, or I'm trying to sell the customer certain products, then here's where I can do some refining by the product, or the content type if I suspect they're just interested in particular types of content. But I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to click search. This is going to take about 10 to 15 seconds because there's quite a lot going on behind the scenes here. But we try and keep the user informed of what is going on exactly. Thinking of adding some elevator music. That was one of the features that didn't quite make it, unfortunately. Try and get the music back from last night that they started playing during the keynote. No? So we're analyzing that text. We're annotating it with all of the concepts. And then we display the search results. And we show the search query again so that the user doesn't have to keep flicking back and forth between those windows. Here are the concepts that have been extracted, which when you're talking about a course outline can kind of be considered to be the subtopics on that course. If we go down to the results themselves, you'll see some video, quite a lot of video on strategic management research, which is great if that's what you're into. Maybe I'm not into video, so I can go back up to the top. While I wait for my past self to catch up with me. And I can filter video out if I want to and be presented with some reference content, which is interesting because this is a slightly more granular level now. So this isn't just about strategy, this is about business models, which, as we can see, is a subtopic on that. That might not have been something that would have emerged if I just search strategy across all of our products. If I'm looking for something a bit more practical, I can just filter to business cases. The thing about business cases is that they have kind of kooky titles that don't really tell you what topics they cover. So I can display the concepts that we've extracted or that the system has extracted. So you'll see we're talking about business models again, value chains, management control, other kind of concepts in strategic management. But if I really want to know what the case is about, I can just click through. So this will take me directly to the Sage Business Cases page. So I can scroll down, I can have a look at the abstract to see how some of those concepts are used in context. So you'll see this is about the relationship between strategy and something that I can't read, strategy execution and management control systems. I can continue the user journey. I'm going to click on Sage Recommends now and see what else we have that's related to this case specifically. So I'll see some journal articles. The first few should be familiar now that we've looked at those keywords because it's about business models again. It's about management control systems. It's about value chain analysis. So all of this really relevant stuff that might not have been emerged with simple keyword searches on strategic management. If I wanted to, I could click on that and then click Sage Recommends again and really disappear down a wormhole, which is kind of that addictive user journey I've been trying to sort of encourage at Sage for a while now. But back to the results, just a couple of things I can do with them. I can download a CSV file if I want to do some sort of advanced filtering on some of that metadata that you get. Or I could click plain results, which would just strip out all the formatting, make it really easy to paste that into one of those customer value reports. So that's kind of built around that marketing manager use case. And we've started to loop around again now. So yeah, that's kind of the demo of the product. We've had lots of positive feedback across the business, but this was designed with marketing in mind. So here are a couple of my favorite comments from that team. So the first one from one of our library marketing people who arms the customers with those customer value reports says that this is something that makes their lives more efficient, makes that process more efficient. That's great. That's exactly what we were going for. Second comment from another colleague in marketing, which puts quite an interesting slant on it, I think, because they point out that actually our customers are trying to do this kind of activity as well. They're trying to prove the value of the things they purchase for their patrons, and course mapping is actually one of the ways in which they do that themselves. So this could potentially be of use to them as well. So what's next? Have I got like 2 minutes or?
2 minutes looks like, yeah, we've got.
I don't hear drinks being poured. So. So I'm interested in just getting a bit more feedback, especially on some of the use cases that we might not have thought of, because the system's designed to be quite flexible and allow you to put any document in there. So are people doing that? I'm quite interested to find out. So I'm going to go back at some stage and find out, look through the search logs, see how it's being used. The prospect of an end user-facing version is a possibility. So what if a student or an instructor could automatically generate a bibliography or a reading list based on an essay question or their faculty bio page? I think there are some issues around that. They probably wouldn't wait 10 to 15 seconds for the results like a sales rep would. In talking to faculty, we think they'd probably want non-Sage content in there as well, because it's fine for the Sage sales rep to only see Sage content, because that's what they're trying to sell. Which is quite difficult to say. It's like a seashells on the seashore thing. But to be, I think, maximally useful to the end user, to an external user, we'd need to bring in other publishers' content, which is obviously difficult because we don't index other publishers' content at the moment. I'm keen to see some more integrations. So I had flowchart envy. So last night I kind of threw this together. Doesn't really compete with some of the flowcharts we've seen. But this is from a design sprint we had around the challenge of how to get our products that we sell to academic libraries adopted on university courses. So this is one idea based on the Matchmaker API. So when a faculty member requests a review copy of a printed book, usually a textbook, through our e-commerce site, we ask them for some information about the course that they're teaching. So we can get that course outline, we can grab it, we can put it through the Matchmaker API, generate some recommended content around things that tend to be of use in the classroom, like videos and case studies, and send that to them with instructions on how they can recommend that product to their library for purchase. So that's something which we're hoping to do a little experiment with, actually, over the next few months. So lastly, to end on a probably unjustified grand note, I actually love the idea of having this kind of interface available to this kind of technology as well to anyone in the organization to use. Because under the hood, Matchmaker is basically just allowing anyone to add a document to a semantic enrichment tool and see what comes out and actually put that to use. So this kind of opens up that technology to the rest of the organization, when previously it used to be only 2 or 3 of us who could actually do that. So that can only be a good thing, I think, can only open up those unknown unknowns. So as we forge into the unknown, let's get a drink.